This is a little Dvar Torah I came up with. It's regarding the six remembrances. Remembrances. According to Yom Yom, we say these every single day, even on Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and every single day. So I try to find a connection between them. The first one is Lamantis Kras Yom Tzedcha Me'etzmei Kol Yemei Chayecha. You should forever remember the day you left Egypt your whole life. The second one is Rak Yishma Lecha Yishma Nefshecha. Basically, be very careful to guard the things which your eyes saw. All your life, and to tell them to your kids and your children's children the day you left, the day you stood before God at the Charev at Mount Sinai. The third one is remember what Amalek did to you, that he came to you on the way and he attacked the weak ones in the back, and you were tired and you didn't fear God, and it was when you came into the land and that God Almighty takes you there, that gives you as your inheritance. You should wipe out the remembrance of Amalek from underneath the heavens. Don't forget to do this. The next one is remember. Don't forget how you angered God in the wilderness. It's talking about the incident with Chet Egel, with the golden calf. And then it says, remember what your God did to what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way when you left Egypt. This is an interesting one. I'll talk about it later. Basically, it's the incident when he gave her tzaras. He gave her this spiritual malady for speaking lashon hara against Moshe Rabbeinu, her brother. And the last one is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So what's the connection? They're in an order. I think everything in the Siddur is exactly right, and everything by Shkar Pratis. These are the six things that the rabbis commanded us to say every single day. There has to be some kind of connection that's a spiritual lesson for us, in my opinion, or else we wouldn't be ordained. We wouldn't be commanded to say them. So this is my own take, and I'm welcome to any comments via personal message to discuss further. So the day we left Egypt, this is the first one is basically an experience a person can have every single day, or maybe once a week or once a month. It's an awakening of sorts. It's Egypt. The word is Mitzrayim. Meitzar, the root of it is a limitation or a boundary, a gvul, as it were, a Meitzar, a strait, a narrow strait. And in spiritually, you always have to be leaving Mitzrayim. You always have to be leaving these spiritual containers, these spiritual boundaries that you make for yourself, and you have to go to a higher place, and a new level that you weren't previously, so that your new level is much greater, much more grand than your previous level. That's the first step of any kind of spiritual progression. The next step is don't forget the things which your eyes saw the day you left Egypt. Basically, the day you stood in front of God on the mountain of Sinai. This is the ultimate revelation of godliness that ever was on the planet, and even that will ever be in a certain aspect for all times, for all generations. This was basically God communicating with about 3 million people, and it was the voice of God heard on this physical planet, and it reverberated, I think, throughout the entire cosmos. But it was absorbed into reality. This is basically on a personal level. Once you leave a certain boundary you had, once you go that 101st time, as the Tanya says, or once you basically exceed what's by route for you, God gives you a gift of a divine revelation. This could be in many different levels of your personal life. It could be on a level of you see as Shkach Pratis, you see a divine providence, that you see this is much more than chance, this is more than serendipity, this is something special going on. Or you hear a miracle story, or a miracle story happens to you. Something happens which is like a divine revelation. This is like a gift. So from that level, we're commanded to remember what Amalek did. So Amalek is the nation that was the first one to come and attack the Jewish people when they left Egypt. And they want to show that even though God did the 10 plagues and God split the sea for the Jewish people, you can still attack these guys. They're regular people. They will have to fight in wars, but they will die when they fight in wars. The Chachamim compare Amalek to a person who jumps into a bath of boiling hot water, even though he knows he's going to be scalded. But he does it so that other people will say, it's not so hot, we can also do it. So Amalek was it's a spiritual energy which cools a Jew off. It calms him down. When something like this happens, like divine revelation of Charav that you just had in your own personal life, Amalek comes, attaches itself to you spiritually, and it basically tells you, calm down, just relax. Your God can do anything, right? Why is this thing so big? It tells you to be relaxed, to be calm, to be satiated, to be like okay with what just happened, and not to see it as like a thing out of the ordinary. And it removes godliness from the world, because it takes away your excitement from what just happened, and it makes you engage the world in a more calm, collected manner, as opposed to what would be more appropriate, and this feeling of excitement, a feeling of passion, a feeling of renewal, and a feeling of God was just in my life. How did this just happen? from that experience of a mullah coming to cooling you off, what could happen is, don't forget how how you angered God with the chet egel. Chet egel is basically after the Priyat Das, after the sin of the tree of knowledge, the bleakest moment in the history of the Jewish people happens 49 days after their assemblance, sort of, and and it's basically this they made a molten golden idol, and they danced around and said, this is the God that took us out of Egypt. Is the lowest point of their existence, and it's this sin which we're still trying to rectify today. It happens in many different levels. But this is something that's a natural consequence of a mullah coming to you personally and cooling you down. You're going to have this little revolt, this little rebellion against God. And it happens on different levels. It doesn't have to be the most drastic thing. It could be like a small thing of praying without being a warm prayer, of learning without having excitement towards your learning. This is what it means to anger God in the wilderness. This is what could happen to a person on this spiritual journey. And then we're told to remember what Hashem did to Miriam. Now this is interesting because we're not told this thing to remember Miriam to further Lashon Hara. We're told actually, the Chachamim explain that this shows on the Anavos of Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu, even though she did slander her brother, and she said that he wasn't with her wife the way that men are supposed to be with women, but Moshe Rabbeinu right away says, "Anna el narafan Allah, God, please heal her." And he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't have any kind of spite towards his sister Miriam. He doesn't take it out on her. He's not vengeful. He says, God, please heal her from her spiritual malady, and we can move on as a people. And the whole people actually do wait for 7 days to be healed, and then they move on. So this is the only approach that a person can get out of what happens when you anger God in your personal level, is a sense of humility. And it has to be the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu, realizing that you know who you are, you have all your potentials, all your energies, and if someone else has them, they do much greater than you. So this type of humility gets a person back on track. And finally it says, remember the Shabbos day to keep it holy. If in this whole cycle nothing wakes you up, and the humility will be enough, but if you can't reach the humility on your own, you'll eventually have a Shabbos. And Shabbos is this acknowledgement that there's a creator in the world, and he makes everything, and he has the right to tell you to enjoy a spiritual oasis once every 7 days. And this will finally put you back on track, so you can again start over. Remember the days when you left Egypt, when you left your contraction, your contracted state, and you went into a higher spot. So this is the connection I see in the 6 remembrances. I love any feedback on this. I'm always looking to be enriched. Thank you so much. Via personal message, thank you so much, and God bless.